होता वही है घर जहाँ डर हो ना फिकर मिट्टी की जहाँ आए खुशबू जहाँ ख्वाब हो फलक पर और सांसों में सबर जहाँ खुद से हो तू रूबरू.
Welcome to everyone for this awaited evening. I'm Madhvi Lamba, and I take the utmost pleasure in welcoming you to yet another promising session of the Right Circle, a proactive initiative of Prabha Khaitan Foundation. Regular sessions of the Right Circle are conducted where words weave dreams of their own and tales from different authors and artists are reflected through conversations and interactions with the audience. Today's session has been organized by Prabha Khaitan Foundation in association with venue and hospitality partner Taj Chandigarh and Ehsas Women of Chandigarh. It is supported by patron Sri Cement Limited as their CSR initiative. Today it's an honor to have Neerja Chowdhury here to grace the occasion in the presence of today's episode of the Right Circle. Your presence is a testament to your enduring commitment to the written word and your dedication to promoting the free exchange of ideas. Now I'm sure that all of us here are very excited to hear from Neerja ji. But before that, let us take a couple of minutes to talk about the Prabha Khaitan Foundation. Prabha Khaitan Foundation is a non-profitable trust based in Kolkata and has been founded by the multifaceted, eminent literati, cultural activist and revolutionist late Dr. Prabha Khaitan. Her vision of working for a better tomorrow is embodied in the famous words, Karam hi Jeevan hai, work is life. So the foundation is committed to promoting performing arts, culture, education, literature, gender equality and women empowerment through authors meet, book launches, literature festivals for veterans and child authors, panel discussions, boutique festivals, and theatre performers. Authors and artists connect with the niche audience through events under the auspices of the varied initiatives like the Right Circle, Kalam, Kitab, Ek Mulaqat, Tiati, Sur aur Saaz, Akhtar, Lafz, Muskan, amongst others. Music to us is an essential art form and is of utmost importance. Introducing the music of the month of November, Born from the Land, curated and composed by three-time Grammy Award winner Ricky Cage. The composer has conceptualized 12 musical pieces for the foundation, each representing a different theme. So the soundtrack features Sangani's Baba Mal, Grammy Award winner Leni Park, the Mizansi Youth Choir from South Africa, and IP Singh from India. It has been performed at key international events to raise awareness about the challenges and problems associated with land degradation and desert desertification worldwide. Now it's my utmost pleasure to introduce our guest, Neerja Chowdhury. Neerja ji is an award-winning journalist, columnist, and political commentator. In a course of a distinguished career of over 40 years, she was the political editor of the Indian Express for 10 years and covered the terms of 8 prime ministers and 10 Lok Sabha elections. She has won several prestigious awards for her journalism, including the first Chameli Devi Jain Award for Outstanding Women in Media Person in 1981, the India Today PUCL Journalism for Human Rights Award 1983, and a Prem Bhatia Award for Best Political Reporting 2009 to 2010. She is a contributing editor of the Indian Express, and her weekly column, the Neerja Chowdhury column, is widely followed by participants and observers of contemporary Indian politics. In conversation today, we have Manraj Garewal Sharma. Manraj Garewal Sharma is a resident editor of the Indian Express. She's an author and has worked as a consulting editor with United Nations Environment Programme and Asia Pacific Adaptation Forum. She's also been a publishing consultant with the Asian Development Bank, Manila, and was the managing editor of Gender, Technology and Development, an international peer review journal of Bangkok for 5 years. Now I'll let you all sit back and enjoy the conversation. So over to you, Manraj. Thank you.
So ladies and gentlemen, I don't need to introduce Neerja to you. She's a doyen. You have editors and you have writers, reporters and editors, and then you have Neerja. So she's the doyen of political journalism in India, and she's shattered so many glass ceilings and paved the way for others. So for us, it's a pleasure. As a journalist, I was so thrilled when I came to know that she's here, because we've grown up reading her. And if you want an insight into politics of the day, pick up her column and you will come back enriched. So having said that, we decided we will start off on a very informal note. I would like to ask ma'am, what made her decide to be a journalist? And her journey.
Thank you for those words, and thank you to PK Foundation for having me here. When you asked me that, to do a 4-city tour on the book in Punjab, I was very excited. Because I thought Punjab, and you will get, I really wanted to know how Punjab thinks, to get the opportunity to interact with people, so I immediately said yes. And today is the first day of that journey. And I must thank each one of you for having taken the trouble to come here. And for PK Foundation, as you said, Prabha Khaitan believed in work and believed in certain ideas which she promoted and the organization named after has promoted. I was invited by them in Calcutta, so I saw a bit of your work there. And now to be here. Thank you, and thank you for your words. I've heard a little bit about, I was talking to the chief editor of the Indian Express today about something else and told him about you. So I heard a little bit about your work and all that you are doing, and I'll be very interested to talk more on that later. But how did I get into journalism? It was one of those accidents.
A very fortunate accident.
Well, I used to think when I was in school, before I'd done my school leaving exam, and an aunt of mine had come to visit us, and she said, "Tu kya karna chahti hai aage?" तो मैंने कहा मैं लिखना चाहती हूँ और अंग्रेजी में लिखना चाहती हूँ. And I had a very split kind of in terms of language. Till class 8 I studied in Hindi medium, and then had to shift to English medium from class 9 to do what was then the senior Cambridge. And my mother used to read Shakespeare in English और फिर मुझे हिंदी में बताती थी. So I often felt, I was neither good at Hindi nor good at English. I fell between two stools. But anyway, and then I went in to do architecture, and in the middle of doing architecture, I met Rajmohan Gandhi, who was with a group at that time called Moral Rearmament. They were going from schools, colleges, and Rajmohan Gandhi was talking about changing Indian society, building a strong, clean, united India. And I, in my teens, was very excited about that. So मैंने सब कुछ छोड़ छाड़ दिया architecture का, and I joined them full time. And I worked 11 years.
Oh, wow.
Full time, and I traveled all over India, staying in people's homes, sometimes sleeping on benches in a college, I remember, in Kerala, sometimes in well-to-do homes, and really understood a little about India. And discovering India by traveling is something that I have always felt very excited about, and which journalism enabled me to do. So it was while I was working with Rajmohan Gandhi that they started a weekly called Himmat. And that used to come out from Bombay. And that is a weekly that took on the emergency that was declared by Indira Gandhi, 1975. and we used to fight the censor. We had to submit the paper for censorship, and my understanding of Indira Gandhi was through that prism of the emergency, and working with people sometimes underground, and those who brought out pamphlets and so on. And it was when the emergency was lifted, Himmat had to fold up, and I often said Himmat could stand up to the forces of authoritarianism, but not to the forces of the market. And then I came to Delhi and joined the Statesman as a civil rights correspondent, the first civil rights correspondent and the only one so far. So that was very interesting, to look at issues of child labor, bonded labor, under trials and their plight, people who'd spent 30, 35, 40 years in the jails of India without a trial commencing. So those are the issues I wrote about. And then Justice Bhagwati, P.N. Bhagwati was the Chief Justice, and that was also a period where I filed several PILs, public interest litigations, on the basis of my stories. And there are some landmark judgments given, one by the father of the present Chief Justice of India. Anyway, that's my foray into journalism.
That's very nice. So when you joined and when you started off as a political journalist, it was a very male-dominated space. Even today, it has more of men. So when at your time, there must have been very few. So how did you tackle that? And also very MCP politicians, and then here's this little girl, as they would have called you.
I must say, you are from the Indian Express, and I spent the longest period of my political career with the Indian Express. The ethos of the Indian Express was very encouraging.
That's true.
And at one time, there were more women than men. They were the chief reporter, the chief of bureau, barring the editor-in-chief, every other position, top position was held by women at one time, I remember. And so when I came in, I was told, this is true, that of course I was a junior member of the bureau, VP Singh kar lo. VP Singh was on the rise at that time. Congress party is too, established, so VP Singh is a small element, so you cover that. And as it turned out, VP Singh went on to become the Prime Minister of India. So that too was a very interesting phase, because it meant everything that these people who had broken off from the Congress and taken on Rajiv Gandhi, who was Prime Minister at that time, Boffers, and some of you, this may not be familiar to you, the Boffers gun deal, the middlemen in it, which was one of the elements that led to the downfall of Rajiv Gandhi. But they would send their press notes always late at night. And I remember driving those years, 1987 to 89, I never got home before 1, 2 at night. And I had a little Maruti. My one fear would be puncture na ho jayega. And it's only once there was a puncture, and that was at India Gate, where these ice cream wallas used to stand. You will remember this. And one of them helped me, because my husband taught me to fix punctures many times, and I could never get the hang of it. I could never get it right. So, but it meant, for all the insecurity of Delhi, one managed to navigate that without thinking too much about it. But those were very heady, exciting times of, governments changing, and the possibility of Rajiv Gandhi, who would come to power with an unprecedented 414 Lok Sabha seats, not broken that record till today, to be taken on by Vishwanath Pratap Singh. In 2.5 years, he replaced him as the Mr. Clean of India, the Prime Minister of India. forged a national alternative to the Congress party and was in the saddle at the end of those 2.5 years. So you can imagine how exciting that period was, and to be part of that period on an hourly basis. So yes, I would say it was a male-dominated world in terms of, you were given the softer jobs, and when I entered, of course, many women, this is a familiar thing, when you enter at that time journalism, you would be sent on the softer beats, a flower show ho raha to wahan kar lo, those kind of things to be given. Today, women have broken every glass ceiling in the profession. Nobody even questions. I'm sure they don't think of you as a woman, but they think of you as a journalist. So also me. And I think the organizations we worked in maybe have been more progressive and liberal than has been the case, say, in regional papers and regional media groupings. Of course, things are now, there are very different kinds of challenges than the ones we faced. But I think a lot, I would say, yes, there is the prejudice, yes, we've had to navigate very difficult circumstances, but as I say, we've also broken many glass ceilings, and that's not just you and me, that's most women journalists would have done that.
She's being very modest now. Yeah. So what about politicians? What about these prime ministers you've written about? So how was your experience with them? And would you cite someone as my favorite prime minister, the Mr. Nice?
That's a question I'm asked, particularly after doing the book. And the more I think about it, and particularly after doing the book, I find that question very difficult to answer. So, as I said, VP Singh I covered intensively, Rajiv Gandhi because I covered VP Singh intensively. So I can't say who's my favorite. I really honestly can't say, because I see the flip side of all the prime ministers. There was the good part and there was the underbelly. A very ugly underbelly.
It's like general assumption is that you were sweetest to Mr. Manmohan.
I know, because of that title. I was asked that question at another meeting, and I've said that Manmohan Singh was probably amongst the weakest prime ministers India's had. But on this one decision, the Indo-US nuclear deal, 39 long months this man didn't give up.
That was amazing.
Absolutely determined. The killer instinct, the Samdam Dandbhed, everything was brought into play. And he saw it through. Sonia Gandhi's opposition, the left threatened to withdraw support to his government. It did. He managed to get the Samajwadi Party, which was opposed to the deal and to the government, on board. And he moved through Amar Singh, who was the classic fixer. He hated to be called a fixer, but he was, world-class fixer who was dealing with the Clintons as much as the Indian politicians here. And Dr. Manmohan Singh managed to get that deal through, laying the foundations of a strategic relationship with the United States of America, which Mr. Modi has carried forward. Of course, Vajpayee also worked on this, and Narasimha Rao before him. But when I went to see Dr. Manmohan Singh recently to present the book to him, he was most happy about this title that's been given.
Yeah.
The underrated Prime Minister who triumphed. So, because of that title, I'm asked, I've been the softest to Manmohan Singh. But it showed a side of Dr. Manmohan Singh that many people thought didn't exist. But nowhere else did he, nowhere else was that element of decision making, that determination manifested. Nowhere else. It was only in the Indo-US nuclear deal. But he was very happy with it.
And in contrast, Indira Gandhi is called the Iron Lady of India at least. And in the morning we were talking and you said when it came to Punjab, the militancy in Punjab, she dithered a lot. So
Yes, she dithered
despite
a
being
lot.
considered very strong.
Use a full mic.
Sorry. Yeah. I thought I was loud enough.
Yes, Indira Gandhi, coming to Punjab, there are, of course, I must say this. I was thinking today that actually out of the 15 prime ministers India has had, if you count Gulzari Lal Nanda, who took over twice as an interim for 13 days in each instance after Nehru and Shastri's death, 3 have been from Punjab. 3 means 20%. This little state of India, which has been a path breaker in so many ways, has provided 20% of India's prime ministers. Of course, 2 were from west of India, Gujarat, Morarji Desai and Narendra Modi. 2 were from the south, Deva Gowda and P.V. Narasimha Rao. And 8 from Uttar Pradesh. And of them 5 from Allahabad. Now that says something about, where the center of gravity lay of politics. Of course, the role Nehru Gandhi family played, Allahabad was their home. And so Nehru, Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Shastri and Vishwanath Pratap Singh, whose Manda, the princely state, was very close to Allahabad. So 5 of them came from Allahabad. And none so far from the east of India. So far. And of course no prime minister so far who's been a Dalit, a Muslim, a tribal. You have a tribal president today. That's a very big development. Even though we say that it's a figurehead, but I say suppose I was a girl, tribal girl in Bastar, I would be so excited. I can also be there one day. The aspiration that lets off and unleashes. So no tribal so far. And yet Punjab is the one that's provided the only minority prime minister, a Sikh. And coming to Indira Gandhi, that's sorry, like a Bhumika Bandna to your the answer to your question. Indira Gandhi's assassination unleashed forces of a kind, the anti-Sikh riots, which India will take a long time to live down. And coming to Chandigarh this morning, I was thinking that is an issue where somehow closure needs to be brought. How we do that? Somewhere it still festers, somewhere it still hurts the psyche of people, and of course very cynical use of that violence was engineered, and I have documented that in the Rajiv Gandhi chapter, in how Rajiv Gandhi became Prime Minister. I looked at decisions by Rajiv and all the Prime Ministers, but I have also looked at how they became Prime Ministers and rose to the pinnacle of power. It's a very cynical use of violence to be able to win elections. And Arun Nehru, Rajiv's cousin, who was the power, who maneuvered the situation in a way that Rajiv became Prime Minister soon after Indira Gandhi was assassinated on the same day. really the accidental prime minister. 7 o'clock in the morning he was campaigning in West Bengal, and at 7 o'clock in the evening he was being sworn as Prime Minister of India. And Arun Nehru said to Rajiv, almost a year into his premiership, and he was the power behind the throne, that you think you became Prime Minister just like that? 5,006 were killed. And there was a Hindu consolidation. And if you want to come back to power, you will have to do 3 things. Build a temple in Ayodhya, abrogate Article 370 of the Constitution, which gives special status to Jammu and Kashmir, and enact a uniform civil code, which became the core agenda of the BJP. This was Arun Nehru to Rajiv in 1985-86.
It's amazing.
You know, the kind. So, you know what I'm saying is, as with other kinds of violence, so also with the violence that was unleashed in 1984 here, it was used very cynically for political purposes, for vote banks, for consolidating them, and I hope that there can be a closure to this. There can be a healing and a closure to this. And that there will be figures in this state and elsewhere in India who will bring this about.
But do you think it is possible? We seem to be getting more
Polarized.
yeah.
Yes, I'm afraid we seem to be getting more polarized and moving in the other direction. Yes. And yet, one keeps hoping that there are the tall men and women in India who will play that role and bring that about.
Yeah, because that's what I really wanted to ask you. There are people, there are doomsayers, etc. But India is essentially, if you look at its people, they are very large-hearted and very receptive. That is the way our civilization has been. So the pendulum is swinging to the extreme right. They say there's a phase which lasts for 15 years and so on. You've seen so much, the Indian democracy, right from Nehru onwards and so on. You've studied that. So how do you see, going forward, how do you see things panning out?
I think this pendulum swinging is something, I ask myself, being a Hindu myself, why is it that the Hindus have got so Hinduized? It's one thing to say that the BJP is whipping it up. Of course, there may be the polarization comes into play nearer elections. It's a tried and tested method of winning elections when other things fail. We've seen that, come into play. But essentially, does that really answer why has the Hindu got so Hinduized? And somewhere I feel we need to understand that, maybe go more deeply into that issue than we have done so far. Of course, there is a historical baggage, there are the fault lines, the post-partition wounds, and these are historical wounds that go on for a long time, take a long time to heal. But I think there needs to be a greater understanding, maybe by people like you and me first, to hear from ordinary people, to go back to the ground and hear from ordinary people what is it that they feel aggrieved about. Because the impact of it is very, I won't even say unfortunate, is a mild word. To have 200 million Muslims feel insecure, beleaguered today is not a happy situation to be in. And so I think, again, somewhere, politics has its place, and my book is about the exercise of power, raw power, and how prime ministers have exercised it wisely or not so wisely. But somewhere one also hopes that things will give way and we move towards better things.
And so, what about, we were talking about this again in the morning, so did Punjab militancy, or the issue of Punjab, because if you see, this is a small state, but it's always on the boil, there's something or the other. If nothing, we'll have gangsters running amok. I mean, if there is no separatist movement or whatever. So what kind of effect, what kind of impact or a shadow or whatever has it cast on the prime ministers down the line?
See, Indira Gandhi, for instance, when the whole Bhindranwala issue was getting built, and Arun Nehru, Rajiv Gandhi, and Arun Singh, who were very powerful at that time, before she was assassinated in the early 80s, had wanted her to go into the Golden Temple even before she did, in the middle of that year, the year she was assassinated in 84. And she deterred and deterred and deterred. And Arun Nehru has told people, again, which are documented, that she was so afraid of moving the army or the forces into a place of worship, and the consequences that would have, which these youngsters were not, they wanted action. And when earlier the Swaran Singh committee was about to have a breakthrough with the Akalis, these young men prevailed on her not to go in for it, but to back down. That also is a very interesting story of what things could have been and what things became. So, and after the army went into the Golden Temple, she organized for a whole month the Mahamrutyunjay Path in her home, because she knew of the possible consequences of what she had done. And even before she was assassinated, she was in Kashmir. And Emil Fottedar, who was her aide, political aide, had talked about this. She talked constantly about, the possibility of death. Even with Rahul Gandhi, there is this conversation, don't grieve after I go. So she had a premonition that something may happen. Now, I would say premonition or an awareness of the consequences of doing what the government had done, held by her. So I think Indira Gandhi deterred in the last years of her life. She was not the Durga of the earlier years. After Sanjay Gandhi's death in 1980, she had become, she continued, many people thought she would quit politics, she did not. But she was not the same Indira of the earlier years. So this phase of her life, 1980 to 84, is a phase for which, she is not so sure-footed at all. But otherwise, and remember, she'd also turned to religion in a big way. Again, I have cited an incident about her. When 1977 to 1980, she visited every major temple in the country. Partly she feared that the Janata Party government would harm Sanjay, may kill him, and partly she also utilized it politically. Her Hindu-ness, her Hindu turn, and she was also in touch with the RSS people, which again I have documented. She got Rajiv Gandhi to meet the brother of the RSS chief, Bhaurao Devras, 3 occasions, and 4th when he was out of power. And so her superstitiousness, and there is this incident that I have again recorded, when she comes back to power in 1980 with an unprecedented majority, which she had not clocked earlier, she decides to go to Chamunda temple in Himachal. And she decides then to go on 22nd of June. A team has gone, the Himachal Pradesh chief minister is there, and suddenly they get a message that she's not able to come, she's not coming. And the Pandit is furious. He says, if ordinary mortals do this, the Devi Ma will forgive. If a ruler does this, the Devi does not forgive. And so then they do the puja, and they are coming back on 23rd morning back to Delhi, and they get word that Sanjay Gandhi's plane has crashed. He had acquired this new plane, was doing acrobatics, and when this team, this gentleman Anil Bali, who's told me about this, and incidentally he told me this story in 1999, and again exactly the same story in 2018 when I decided to do the book with the same details and all. So he said when we arrived 2:30 a.m. in Delhi, she was sitting next to the body and she got up and came to them and said, "Is it because I did not go to Chamunda?" So she was superstitious enough. You know, she had that element was there very strong. And then in December, 6 months down the line, she went to Chamunda. And that very Pandit, his hand shook as he performed the puja, because she did everything to perfection, all the Kali mudras, everything that had to be done. And then she just wept and wept and wept. And she planted trees, which was one of Sanjay's 5-point programs, and came back, and that evening in Delhi at a function, she called Rajiv to the stage and introduced him to the gathering there. So, giving the signal that he would be. Of course, there were a whole lot of events that followed, but I'm saying there's a religious side, superstitious side to our very powerful rulers, and this was also true of Narasimha Rao. This was true of others also.
Yeah.
Not just Indira Gandhi. So there is a vulnerability about these powerful rulers. You think they can do anything in the world. They have all the power, but what they have to contend with, the decisions they have to make, they don't get a clean slate, they inherit problems. Like Narasimha Rao used to say, I'm not responsible for the Babri Masjid problem, I inherited it. I had to deal with it. So, as I said, there's the human side. And also I start the book by how lonely the top is. So again, very long-winded answer. While I have no favorite, I found Indira Gandhi very fascinating. You know, she had highs and lows. And how did she navigate this terrain, being the woman, Gungi Gudiya, this chit of a girl, this chokri as she was called, and she got the better of all her opponents nationally, internationally. So that was a fascinating part. And the emergency, where she suspended fundamental rights, was the other side of the story. Sorry.
And Delhi, VP Singh, they used to say when he was a finance minister that he would sleep in his office. So did he continue doing that when he became the Prime Minister?
Really? Business person?
No, that he would sleep in his office. VP Singh.
Yeah. His what?
When he was the finance minister, that he would sleep in his office. I remember some India Today article.
Sleep?
Yeah. That there was so much work that he would sleep there.
I didn't find that part. It's very interesting that you mentioned it. Sleep in his office. I know, but Devagowda.
Oh yes, he's trying to sleep everywhere.
Devagowda would fall asleep. That scientists are briefing him about whether to go for a nuclear test or not. That Narasimha Rao had read it, and Vajpayee had. General Malik will tell you more details about this. And Vajpayee had, in those 13 days, not manned because didn't get a majority and variety of reasons, not gone for it, which he did later. But Devagowda, then he was being briefed and he fell asleep. The scientist said he was asleep. And I remember him, baat kar rahe ho, he would just drop off. And I think there must have been some health issues.
Because in very public meetings as well, he would just be
He would just go.
Not
Yeah.
sleep at
Yes.
night, he used to get up at 4 in the morning and doze off during the day.
That's right.
And what about, something more about VP Singh and the crafty, the crafty Prime Minister who remade Indian politics.
I know. VP Singh is a Prime Minister who, at least those of you who have not heard of him, the younger ones among you, may not have strong opinions, but every other Indian will have a strong opinion who knew of him. You either like him or you hate him. Even till today, the Congress party is not forgiven him. Of course, partly because he replaced Rajiv Gandhi, but partly because he pulled this Mandal Commission report, which had been gathering dust in a government cupboard somewhere for 10 years. It was ordered by Morarji Desai, and Indira Gandhi put it in some forgotten almara and some time to be used, for political reasons. And the report recommended 27% job reservations for the OBCs. And it changed Indian politics.
Yes.
This happened in 1990 when VP Singh was very beleaguered. There was factionalism inside the party. His deputy Prime Minister Devi Lal was trying to dethrone him. All that was going on. And he decided, the BJP, this is another thing I must mention, if you'll allow me to, that it is often said that Mandir was a response to Mandal. But actually, Mandal was a response to Mandir. That the BJP had decided to adopt the building of the temple in Ayodhya in 1989 itself. Even the decision to have a Rath Yatra was taken in June of 1990, whereas Mandal decision was BP made the Mandal decision in August of that year, 5 weeks down the line. And VP Singh used to say this, I had given myself 2 years. But the whole thing got fast forwarded. And then he felt that he had batted for social justice and would say, goal kar diya, but tang toot gayi. Because his government went as a result of that. But the empowerment of the OBCs and the reaction that was unleashed, there were immolations by young people, 200 immolations all over North India. And of course the BJP would do support to his government, which it was propping it in part. And that process goes on today. Today, the battle is not what used to be framed at that time, Mandal versus Kamandal. No. BJP today is not just Mandir and what is called Kamandal, the building of the Mandir. It is also, it's no longer a Baniya Brahmin party. It has a very, it has an underpinning of the OBCs, and amongst them the extremely backward caste that Mr. Narendra Modi has managed to get on his side. And so it is Mandal plus Kamandal on this side and Mandal plus Kamandal on the opposition side also. As somebody was telling me today, what are the things, it's very fascinating, this person saying, what are the 4 things where there is now a consensus in the country? It is that opening up of the economy, liberalization of the economy, it's a given, accepted by everybody. Competitive religion, accepted by everybody. I was in Chhattisgarh recently, or Bhupesh Baghel is very Hindu in his symbols and articulation. Kamal Nath, very Hindu. Yes. So the opposition is also playing a similar kind of idiom that they are into. So freebies, it's everybody accepts it. You have to you have to create the safety net, you've got to give to the poor something in their hands. And this perception battle that every party is going for is not ideology today, it is really, which is very summed up very well by Govindacharya of the BJP, that which Narendra Modi has perfected, that power is equal to elections, and elections is what you must win, and political marketing is what you have to do, and the media, the role the media plays in all this. And is it media, working journalists like you or me, or the media houses that now come into play? So it's thrown up a completely different ecosystem from the one that used to exist, and bringing about a paradigm shift in Indian politics. So VP Singh started a process which is going on, and
What about this caste-based census now? The caste-based census.
that caste-based census is part of that. It is part of that. It is that to counter Narendra Modi, you are going to use caste as an issue. Caste-based census means, if it's true in Bihar, 63% of the OBCs of the population is OBC, then they will say we want more reservations. So far you were going on the basis of 52% OBCs according to the 1931 census. So Bihar says we are 63 and 37 are extremely backward. Now there's a Rohini commission that has been set up by Narendra Modi. He's given its report to the president and the government. And the idea is that the extremely backwards amongst the larger group of OBCs must get their due. So each one will ask for their share. And I say, even for the women's reservation bill, where opposition parties have said there should be a quota within a quota. So if you concede the principle of a quota, OBC, within the larger quota, for women in parliament, then male OBCs will also say that. हमको भी मिलना चाहिए, OBC category को parliament में मिलना चाहिए. Why only 22% SCs and STs? Why not according to some proportion of the population in parliament allocation? So, you're opening Pandora's boxes. You are, of course, going for devolution of power, but you are also, because it's so unthought through and on the spur of the moment for political gain, for electoral gain, you are going to open, as I say, a Pandora's box which you may not know how to handle.
Yeah. And what about this thing? On one hand, you're talking about one nation, one election, and then you have states, small states calling for more federalism, etc. How does this? Is it just talk, or is it really going to happen? Is it somebody is really seriously thinking about it?
I think there are parallel trends. I'm sure all of you have views on this. It's interesting to hear them. Certainly there are parallel trends. That the smaller states, want their voices to be heard. And Nagaland wants its voice to be heard. Manipur wants its voice to be heard. And Mizoram wants its voice to be heard. And one of the key takeaways for me writing this book has been that India is a coalition. It's a coalition, it's a rich coalition of languages, races, religions, castes, ethnicity. I don't think there's a country as plural and diverse as India. And it must be run like a coalition, and whether it's by a brute majority government, whether it's by a simple majority government, or by an alliance. And coalition means that the last person's voice must be, the smallest voice must also get its due. Otherwise, that's the way to keep India together. And but I agree with you that it's not one nation. It's a good idea if you think of it only in terms of arithmetic,
Expenses
and managing the thing, money. Though I think we should never equate our democracy with money. जब कहते हैं ना इतना पैसा खर्च हो गया पार्लियामेंट की रानी में, I find it very disturbing as a concept. But that apart, I think, anyway.
So what is the health of Indian democracy? How do you view that?
Look, there are serious challenges to Indian democracy in terms of, the institutions coming under pressure. But there's the other side to Indian democracy also, which is devolution of power. Who would have thought that T. Seller will become Prime Minister of India?
Yes.
Who would have thought a tribal would become the President of India? So power is going to the peripheries. अभी क्या था कि भाई, okay, tokenistic presence used to be there. But I find, I find the Modi phenomenon very fascinating, and I say this, that I feel I haven't fully comprehended it. That it's much more than Hindutva, nationalism, national pride, OBC empowerment, a strong leader, a leader without a family in tow. It's all these things. And of course social welfare schemes getting into the hands of people. But somewhere it's also about an aspirational India. It's the small town India, the village India, which says, if he can make it, so can I. And I think that messaging by him, 50 years time we will be doing this, 20 years time we will be doing this, You may not agree with, one nation, one election. And a lot of people I meet, they say, and rightly say, अरे अभी तो 5 साल में 5 बार तो आते हैं ना हमारे पास पूछने के लिए. कभी लोकल इलेक्शन है, तो कभी ग्राम पंचायत इलेक्शन है, तो स्टेट इलेक्शन है, and so on, and then national election. अगर 5 साल में एक बार आएंगे तो हमारे तो सुनेंगे ही नहीं. So ordinary people see it like that, and rightly so, that they will not worry about the ordinary people, these politicians. But I think there is the other side to one nation, one election part, which is this side, which points to what I call the noisiness and the cacophony of Indian democracy. Our election is an industry now. I find it very fascinating. Elections का होना और leaders का जाना, वापस लोगों के बीच में वोट मांगना, and you realize that the voter is the king. That they come to you that one time and ask for your vote and promise to do things.
What about governance suffering because of that?
There is that side to the story. As I say, coalitions may be, governance suffers. You have weak governments, you have governments that get battered around, pushed around. There is that flip side. And yet, big decisions have been made by coalition governments also. Opening up of the economy, India going nuclear, all these were coalition governments that made. So I think there is a flip side to it. There is no perfect solution, I think, General Malik. So in a sense, one has to navigate, but I would say the strengthening of India's democratic institutions, that is the big challenge for us. No matter who comes to power, it doesn't matter. They are the checks and balances at the end of the day. And a vigilant citizenry, really.
But you think it is effective?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
No, is it effective now? The vigilant citizenry, people who speak up, they probably line up in front.
है भी और नहीं भी है. It's got a lot of people are. At least I was saying, for instance, today, the Aam Aadmi Party chief and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal may be arrested. He skipped the summons by ED. How will the ED respond? We don't know. He could be arrested. This is the buzz in Delhi. Yeah. Now, nobody's hit the roads, which would have happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Nobody has hit the road from his party, which is supposed to be a cadre-based party. Why? Mystifies me. And nobody has hit the road from his allies. I would have thought Alliance parties would have also hit the road in protest. Now we don't know what the substance of what the charges are. That would have to be proved and all that. But certainly the opposition feels that only opposition figures are being targeted by the agencies, not the BJP figures. And corruption is everywhere. So 95% of those picked up are in the opposition. So even to make that point, I'm only making the point of, people protesting. That's not happening. It's true. It's not happening as it used to.
Is that because they are scared?
They are scared.
Hardly. Yes.
It is a delight to hear you. Just a little bit about where do you see the voice of the press? Like how much you've seen the freedom of the press over the years. During the emergency, there was a clamp. How do you see it now and in the future? What voice?
Emergency also, the press, there were sections of the press that caved in, and there were sections of the press, mainly the smaller papers, that put up a valiant fight, some of the smaller papers. Of course, there were Indian Express, Statesman also that put up a fight. And today, they call it an informal emergency, some people. I don't fully, though as I said, there are pressures on the media, pressures on the judiciary, parliament is not what it used to be, all that is there. But I wouldn't call it like an emergency, because she and I won't be talking like this if it was the emergency. So I think we should not use words lightly, though I don't say that the challenge is not there. The challenge is very huge. And the challenge for the media also is very huge. And I sometimes feel Hamara Zamana was easier than your times. What working journalists today have to navigate is far tougher. Because you're having to, pressures are coming at the top level, the media owner, proprietor, media house level. The working journalist doesn't have even the freedom to navigate that they did at one time. So it is very complex and yet worrying. I don't know what the answer is or where the answers will come from, but I hope they will come.
It's very interesting to hear you. One is that it's in the public that what Manmohan Singh planned could not implement, and the present government is implementing that.
Manmohan Singh had planned but could not implement.
Yeah, and the present government is implementing it. It's just trying to do what the blueprint was prepared by the Manmohan Singh government.
Are you talking of the nuclear?
No, I'm talking about the free market economy.
Okay, liberalization.
Secondly, you said that Arun Nehru told Rajiv Gandhi that if you want to be in power, then you have to do the three things: temple, 370, and universal code. That means that agenda was there. So this agenda was not RSS agenda was not a BJP agenda. It was there as a.
The three things you said Arun Nehru told Rajiv that
what he had to do. Yeah.
So that means he says it was not a BJP agenda, that it was this agenda, but it was not necessarily a BJP agenda.
It was a BJP.
In fact, it was there in the hardcore politics of the country. Answer to your why the Hindus are so much Hinduized. My question is, if Mandal was a challenge or in response to Kamandal, but do you think that caste census is a response to Mandal?
Caste census as what?
As a response to Mandir.
Mandir, not Mandal. Yes. Yes, I think the caste census, as I said earlier, is an attempted response to the politics of the BJP today, which is not limited only to Mandir. Today is not limited to Mandir. Today it has shades of Mandal in it also. When Prime Minister Modi talks about the extremely backward caste, you know, a very senior leader in the BJP told me not long ago, he said, he was talking, this was just before the UP elections, and he was saying, asking कि क्या आपकी view है यूपी में क्या होने वाला, तो I said you're losing the support of the Jats, farmers agitation and all that had happened. So he said, no, we're not worried about the Jats. Jats will stay with us. We are worried about retaining and getting the support of the OBCs. So they have very consciously widened their base to include this group, including the tribals and the Dalits as part of the base. So if their vote base today is not just Mandir, it's a whole lot of other things. And as I said, this side also is trying not only caste and a mixture of caste, the old MY, Muslim Yadav, MY plus some other castes and so on. It's also now catering to this Hinduness, as I said, stemming from the Hinduization of the Hindus that they have to cater to. So politics is both sides, different from what it was in 1990s.
Can I make a comment? Yesterday I was listening to Mr. Prashant, who is Prashant Kishore. So he said that we always say that Hinduism, the BJP got the Hindu votes and Hinduism is very prominent. He said, but if you look at the number of percentage of votes through which BJP won, 32 and 33% vote. He said, even if all the Hindus, there are about 80% population of India is Hindus, only 32 or 33% people voted. So what would the rest of the 50% or 55% Hindus? They are not with the BJP.
That is the heart of the opposition strategy today. Last time, 2019, BJP got 37% of the vote. 63% is on the other side. Their strategy is if we can have one-on-one contests against the BJP, then even if you get a large chunk of that 63%, there'll be parties that'll be out, like Naveen Patnaik's BJD or KCR's BRS, there some parties will be out. But still, if you can get the others on the same platform, you may be able to defeat the BJP in many more constituencies. And the BJP would worry about this, today would be worried about this. Because if the opposition, if INDIA can bring down the BJP tally by 70-80 seats and brings it down to 220 to 230 instead of the 303, the game is open.
So my question doesn't relate to that.
Therefore, I would say that is what they would be.
So my question relates that it's not that every Hindu is for Hindutva which is being promoted by BJP.
Of course.
So that concept that every Hindu is becoming more Hinduized or anything, I think that's not true.
That's absolutely true. Even if you take away 20% of the minorities and a few others, say all of them voted against the BJP in that category, still a large chunk of the Hindus would have voted for the other side. Certainly. That's a point well taken. Not all the Hindus, 80% and more are voting.
So like you are saying that they are probably focusing on other areas also, not only Hindus.
That's right.
Yeah.
So ma'am, before you close it, any prediction or assessment about coming elections? State-wise.
Yes.
What, these 5 elections or 2024?
No, first these 5 states and then 24.
You can, never definitely say things and you worry about, making predictions, being journalists till the last vote is counted because you don't know what's going to happen as the time goes on. But as of today, I would say, in Rajasthan, which a year looked like, a year ago looked like 20 to 25 seats for the Congress, according to their internal surveys. Today, even the BJP people in Rajasthan say maybe around 75 to 80 for the Congress, because Ashok Gehlot and the Congress has brought the party in a situation of takkar. But I don't think I would be very surprised if they manage to defeat the BJP. BJP is ahead in Rajasthan. Chhattisgarh, where I was last week, I would say yes, the Congress is comfortably ahead. Madhya Pradesh, it's a very close contest, very close. They were ahead, but the BJP has been picking up. So it's a close contest. Telangana is the most exciting. Because the Congress is picking up, we thought BRS, it's a given. Even though people used to, about 8-9 months ago, say it's a BJP versus BRS. No, today it's a Congress versus BRS. And the Congress is picking up by the day. It's such a rapid rise that people are watching Telangana very carefully and closely. In Mizoram, it's very interesting what, MNF is there. MNF, normally they alternate with MNF versus Congress, but MNF would have lost, but MNF has broken off with the BJP in order to gain advantage. There's also a third party, Zoram People's Movement, which is, talked about change and also gaining ground. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens in Mizoram. But Manipur is going to affect northeast of India much more than we all realize. So that outcome we don't know. But I think it could be a mixed bag. But I don't personally see these 5 elections as a semi-final. Because the way people vote in state elections is very different from the way they vote in a national election. I met so many young people. Though you hear other kinds of voices, also people who say, पिछली बार मोदी को दिया था इस बार नहीं देंगे हमारी तो रोजी रोटी छीन गई those kind of voices you hear, but a lot of young people who say I'm voting Gehlot because he's done ABCD, or I'm voting Baghel because he's done so much for the Kisans, but बड़ी election में हम मोदी को देंगे. So the general view is we don't know where this will go, because BJP is equal to a big election machinery of the kind that exists nowhere in the world. And you have it, led by a leadership 24/7, determined to win election. They will pull rabbits out of the hat. We don't know which rabbits. So we don't know kahan jayega, but conventional wisdom, if you talk to ordinary people about 2024, हाँ वापस आएंगे but कम होगी थोड़ा majority. How true this is going to be, I don't know. For all it's worth, this is what one has picked up.
I think we can give it a big round
Yes.
of applause.
Thank you, Neerja ji, for such an incredible, captivating and actually enlightening session for all of us. I think there's a lot of food for thought to take back. On behalf of the Prabha Khaitan Foundation, I, Madhvi Lamba, would like to express my sincerest gratitude to Neerja Chowdhury and the perfect conversationist Manraj Garewal Sharma for expertly guiding the interaction. I also extend my gratitude to our distinguished hospitality partner Taj Chandigarh, the Hisas Women of Chandigarh, as well as our patron Sri Cement Limited. A big thank you to all our receptive audience members for making the Right Circle session in Chandigarh so engaging. The Prabha Khaitan Foundation fosters cross-state cultural understanding and appreciation. We support artisans and the exquisite craftsmanship. I would like to express our gratitude to our patrons and guests by endorsing their products. We encourage everyone to buy products from these skilled craftsmen to promote the sustainability and development of handicrafts. At all our events, we serve regional cuisine, encouraging our authors to embark on a culinary journey to experience India's diverse food culture, and in doing so, we raise awareness about locally sourced ingredients in the city and community. In this context, today we are delighted to present the ethnic Chowdhury. Kantha is a centuries-old tradition of stitching patchwork cloth from rags, which evolved from the thrift of rural women in the Bengal region of the subcontinent. Today, the eastern Indian state of West Bengal and Orissa and Bangladesh. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Paramveer Singh to felicitate Miss Neerja Chowdhury and Miss Manraj Karewal Sharma, please. Please don't forget to pick up a complimentary copy of Neerja Chowdhury's book, autographed by Neerja ji personally before you leave. So you can all get the book and you can get it autographed. Thank you so much.